Hello, ladies and gentlemen, craft spirit enthusiasts, and those interested in the intoxicating world of craft distilleries, cideries, meaderies, wineries, and the occasional foray into breweries. It's Rich Shane, and welcome to Fermented Adventure, the podcast, where we bring you the fascinating people that are making the mash, fermenting, distilling, bottling, pouring, and delivering to you some of the finest libations in the world. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping items. Thank you for bringing the podcast into wherever you are and whatever you're doing. We truly are grateful that you have chosen to listen and make us part of your day. It would mean the world to us if you left a 5-star review. This helps us climb in the rankings, and it makes it easier for others to find us. Don't hesitate to leave us your comments as well. If the podcast didn't meet your expectations, tell us why. We're always striving to improve. You can find us at fermentedadventure.com. We are on Instagram and Facebook as Fermented Adventure. Email us at fermentedadventure@gmail.com. All right, FA Nation, let's meet our guests. He's Matt Hemmings. I'm Rich Shane. This is Fermented Adventure, the podcast. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Rich, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
I am so grateful you're here. We've taken a little bit of a hiatus on doing some interviews to go through some things that we've been a little bit more passionate about on the Fermented Adventure podcast, talking about activities in history. Today, we are going to talk about Sunshine Punch. You're bringing the sunshine. What is Sunshine Punch?
Sunshine Punch, extremely versatile orange rum cream cocktail. There's a lot of words in there that I just mentioned, but what we are is we are a low ABV. We're 18% ABV, 36 proof, and we're going to be a versatile beverage that is ready to pour. First off, we're ready to pour. It's going to be nostalgic like a creamsicle, flavor profile, but distinctively unique. And what we say is it's sessionable, and it can be used in a lot of different manners, which we'll get into. But that is Sunshine Punch in a bottle.
How did all this get started for you?
It's a great question. It's a really good question. And it really comes to ties with people, long-term ties with people. I have a very old friend of mine. His name is Brian. He's my co-founder. And he likes to say he's a recovering finance nerd. Who got out of a couple of different deals, finance and to software, and then got into the spirit space. And ultimately, Brian, he had a vantage point into the industry, and he knew that I was at a crossroads in my career, and this has probably been 4 years ago. And my background was sales and marketing. And he said, Matt, you're coming up against a crossroads. We've always had some passion because we've known each other since we were 18. We'd love to work together on something. And I'm looking at this spirit space, and you've had this thing in your circles, this thing for about a decade that we open up the lid of, we pass it around campfires. Typically it gets gone. We throw the bottle out, have a great time. He said, would you like to take a run at commercializing that thing you have? And, I said, yeah, let's take a shot at that once, it's one foot in front of the other, and let's see if we can make something out of it. But really, our diverse backgrounds, his vantage point into the industry, and a kitchen cook recipe that I had on my side of things is what was the starting place for a conversation.
Well, let's go back to that kitchen cooker recipe. It sounds like a lot of people enjoyed. What was the impetus of that for you? Was it like a college thing? Was it just like a Boy Scout program? You need to earn your merit badge or something?
Right. And I'll say, and I actually have to throw out credit to another co-founding partner as well, who had a recipe that he was dialing in over the years. So he was dialing that in over the years. And then what I'll say is Brian and I's relationship did go back to college. So it went back, we met in the dorm rooms and shared a lot of passions. But so now you're starting to see a connection points of 3 different people, with me somewhat being the conduit, if you will. And I'll say this about the kitchen cook. What we knew we had, it's all the flavor profiles I described to you earlier with Sunshine Punch, but this would be, it's a home brew, right? So it's a little bit more rough around the edges. It's usually served in a nondescript glass jar. It is, non-branded, a little bit more proof heavy. But what we knew about it was two things. It had very broad appeal, and it usually got drank all at one setting, which was sessionable. Um, Gentlemen loved it because it had some potency to it. Ladies loved it because it had a great smooth flavor profile. So that's exactly what we wanted to capture as we started to go down the journey of, can we commercialize? So here you are. Here's this awesome thing. It's in your kitchen. Proof of concept by direct relation, your friends, your family, the people in your party circles, whatever. So we knew that that existed. Now, what do you do after that is what starts to get to be a major step forward and challenge, right? So there we are. What we had in our circles also was some good connections to external partners. And one of them was a brand firm on the West Coast who's genius. They're wonderful. They've worked with so many players, but we happen to have a line of communication with those guys. And we said, hey, we're thinking about commercializing. Why don't you take a sip of this thing and see what you think? And they're like, man, it's unique. It's versatile. It's kind of riding that ready to drink wave, but it's distinctively its own. It could sit on the spirit shelf, and we would love to work with you. And I think in that conversation, it was even said that it should probably even be called Sunshine Punch, but we don't know if that's going to be available. So, and our partners had seen it all and done it all. They had worked on major brands that you've heard of, but they liked us as a team, and they wanted to dig in and just and work on something that was passion driven, and that's exactly what we did.
Pardon the interruption. Thank you so much for listening to Fermented Adventure, the podcast. Could you do us a favor? Hit that follow button. It makes it easier for others to find us, and it helps us climb in the rankings. Take a screenshot of the podcast, post it, tag us, and let everyone know that you listen to the Fermented Adventure podcast. Now, back to our podcast. What excites me about your story is this idea of the legacy brands that we've grown up with that started in somebody's kitchen or started just somewhere that were recipes handed down over time, and the idea of taking it more of to a broader spectrum, that you start and say, you know what, this is going to be a brand in the spirits world. You can open up and you can say, you know what, we want a vodka, and we want a gin, and we want a rum, and we're going to lay those white spirits down, and then we're going to start, working on our brown spirits. And from that standpoint, that's a wonderful road to go. And it's certainly tried and true and well tested. And as a consumer, we love all those distillery brands that are doing what they're doing. But within this space, what you talked about, this ready to enjoy, this ready to consume product that you put up as, you're raising your flag on the ship. This is what we're sailing with, and we're going to become a household name. We're going to be one of those go-to bottles that if you're getting together with family, friends, tailgating, all these things, I'm sure you've already, product tested, you've already market tested, but this is what our focus is. This is what our direction. And I think sometimes with what you're doing, it's so laser focused that you create this wonderful enthusiasm in the market that's so different than a lot of people are doing right now.
That's interesting. And we're almost running at a pace as the market's changing. So two thoughts on that. Number one was that we were after perceived heritage. We were after nostalgia, but we didn't want to be a parlor trick when it comes to flavor. So we were going after something that was distinctive. It was unique to us. Now, as far as how to use, what's the best way to put it? Sometimes we'll say transgentle to the ready to pour, ready to drink category. We wanted to ride along with that category. We didn't necessarily want to get down in the thick of the fight, because there's a lot of churn and burn in that category as well. Most of it's small size, Some of the flavors are rotating through really quickly. We wanted there to be staying power to our primary flavor and flavors as they come along. We wanted to make sure that it is a building block and also that it could sit on the spirit shelf. Now, we're also wholly embracing ready to. This is a product that you can pop the lid, pour over ice, enjoy. It's as simple as that. Consumers love it like that. But what we did find along the way as well is that it became a really, really popular plus one. And it became a very popular modifier that we started to get back from the on-prem. So versatility is written through the DNA of this product for sure. But when it comes to storytelling, it's also pretty easy to say, pour over ice, enjoy. The product stands on its own.
Going back to the original inception of this brand and on some sort of stovetop
Yeah.
college kind of thought process, what was the deciding factor when Dawn said, "Hey, Sunshine Punch, we are going to be speaking to them and describing the product"? Immediately, my mind was going to go to, it's going to be a vodka based product. And then she said rum. And I was like, rum? Really? Because we haven't seen too many in this space that use rum. What was that conversation, or what was the hey, we're going to
Yeah.
try rum, we're going to, all these different spirits you could have started with. What was it that honed in on the rum?
Yeah, and there is too. And I should be honest too, there is neutral grain spirits and there is rum as well. So we really did see the flavor profile of this being teased out. I mean, take a look at our logo, our slogan there, sun above, sand below. This is obviously bringing the beach to people. We don't want to be exclusively thought of as on the beach, but we do bring the beach elsewhere, of course. So that bringing those hints of the rum forward and standing on that became more of a natural for us in this beverage when we went into development. It just seemed like the natural fit. It seemed like broad appeal, and it did feel like the right flavor journey as well.
All right, I haven't had this yet. I've held off. I've really done some discipline work here off of this,
Okay.
and I love the bottle. You know,
Yes.
you get the texture of an orange here. You've
Yep.
got the homage to orange segments there, but it also, you get the hearts. I don't know if that was intentional, that you wanted people to see hearts on your logo, and I'm gonna fall in love with this. A little bit of story, but I'm always a fan, and I'm always just enamored by what all the thought that goes into every little detail. And you guys
Yep.
hit it. You put the logo on the stopper,
Yep.
here. So some of those conversations that you had, and you talked about this branding company, what were some of those design, elements that you wanted to see here? But before we do that, because I'm going to pour this and I'm going to let you answer that question. Do I shake this up before I pour? Is it stable to where?
It's shelf stable.
Okay.
It's stable. Is going to be completely emulsified. You can always give it a shake, it's just natural to do so. But what we recommend is pour over ice, let a tiny bit of that ice melt balance and round things out, and then taste away.
All right, I'm gonna buck your trend a little bit, and I like tasting meat just so I can
Sure.
get the full flavor that you intended. But I appreciate that, because we'll bring some
Sure.
ice in at some point. Now, when you talk about just all the elements of this brand and all the thought that went into this bottle,
Yes.
share some of those discussions.
Oh goodness. There was a lot of versions in renditions of this. From a shape, I think the first thing that we landed on pretty quickly was the shape. The broader shoulders, the unique custom bottle was a key for us. Then when we started to get into the texture piece was just awesome. And that was something that was a no-brainer, a lot of alignment on that, but it did probably take 3 or 4 more versions to get that exact touch feel of that bottle. I'm glad that you noted the logo and the embossed on the cap on the topper there. That is something that came along second wave. We thought that it just had a very nice look to it, especially as you see caps laying around with the logo. But that's what we really wanted, was a lifestyle brand. We ultimately want Sunshine Punch to be recognizable even just from our orange wedge logo. So that is something you'll see it on some of our swag, our apparel. It's echoing through the bottle. Yeah, it's very important to us, and it's very high caliber, we think.
One of the things that stands out for me that I appreciate is the texture of the bottle. Whereas if my hands, if you talk about, hey, I'm going to go to the beach and now I've got some sunscreen on,
Yep.
I'm not going to lose grip of this bottle.
Nope.
And I can hand it off to somebody very easily. And maybe the bottle gets a little lower and I'm tossing it to a friend now and it makes it easier for them to catch.
That's right. That's really good. I love that. And we also wanted we see, and we'll get into extensions, but we see a lot of opportunities for small size and on the go. We have some preliminary design on some of those that can be multi-packs and can be light cooler throwers. There'll be plastic, different shapes, options, possibly look like an orange. We'll see. But what we wanted to do, make sure, is the statement with our 750. And what you're picking up on is it's almost stoneware with personality to it. So we made that to be a point. And we really see Sunshine Punch to be a family, a future family. And we felt like the orange flavor just had the shoulders as the flagship.
I've been nosing this as we've been talking about the bottle. And one of the surprising aspects of this to me is how juicy and orangey the initial aroma and the nose is on here.
Yep.
And at the tail end, I do get that rum essence to it.
Yes.
But we've had different orange, let's say, vodkas or orange white dog whiskeys.
Yes.
And we've had those that really come off with a lot of creamy texture on the nose and not so much. It almost, and I'm not going to say every one because we've had some tremendous. Muhlenberg out of Bar Distillery makes this orange drink. What they do, it's exceptional. It's like an orange whiskey, but a lot of them,
Yep.
Matt, just come off like it was cream based with some extra alcohol that we didn't have to bottle. That, oh, we'll throw some orange in it, and maybe it's even an artificial kind of flavor,
You got
texture, smell. But this, I'm like almost conjuring Anita Bryant coming into my environment here, and she's doing the orange. I'm like, holy cow, this is like you just freshly squeezed an orange into my cocktail. That's what you did.
That's really well said. Holy cow. I got to get that. You know what the hardest thing was as you're chasing, pinning down formulation is flavor journey. Flavor journey. And look, this is a fun drink. It is a broad appeal, fun drink. It's versatile. We've said that, but it's also, we still want there to be sophistication. We want there to start with the orange. We want to start with aroma. We want there to be balance in the middle. We want there to be cream finish on the back. If it's one dimensional, if it's just a one flavor, here's everything that hits at the same time, it is what it is. It's fine, but it's taken that interpretation out of it. It's taken that journey out of it. And you know what it also does is if it's too one dimensional, it takes away how it plays with other natural partners, which is really cool as well.
All right, I'm sipping this now, and I'm getting into this journey with you. And what really surprised me is on the nose, I get orange rum and that creaminess to it on the nose. On the mouthfeel, on the flavor, the first thing that I got was the rum.
Yep.
The rum
That's
comes
right.
first.
That's right.
Then you get almost the bitterness of the orange peel, and
Yes.
then the sweetness and the orange, and then that creaminess just settles in. And
Yep.
I can certainly see where this becomes I'm almost being, transferred back. I've got the Star Trek portal, and I'm coming back to where you guys are hanging out in college, and hey Matt, hey Brian, is it ready yet? A little bit longer, and you're just hanging out and just drinking this, and this becomes like a fan favorite for everybody.
That was it. That was it. And really more exactly right. That's what we saw in the last 10 years. Um, I don't know that I could have described it any better. Exactly what you did is where the vanilla hangs and lingers. And the final thing that I will mention is that as far as viscosity goes, we were after sessionable. We wanted it to be lighter. You're going to see cream spelled creme on the front of the bottle. And yes, it is a cream and it is also very drinkable. So that's sometimes the surprise I get during trial and tasting is a lot of folks will be like, oh, wow, it's lighter than I would have expected. It's lighter than I would have expected. We like to hear that. That means it's more drinkable straight than you typically would expect from other things.
Yeah, again, I'm not utilizing ice, but I can very much see where the ice really, I'm not going to use the word dilutes, but in a way, kind of lowers the volume on
Yes,
a lot of different things. And I think the one thing it would lower the volume on is the creaminess, to where I can sit there and drink more of this at one time, as you spoke about several times, as being sessionable. And the creaminess didn't come off as that heavy viscosity as my mind was expecting it to be. And
that's right.
even from looking at it, it almost looks like whole milk. When you pour a glass of whole milk, that you're going to still get a lot of the body
Yes,
of that milk, but you're not pouring heavy cream. There's
that's
not
right.
that heavy viscosity of heavy cream.
That's right. You got it. Very well said.
What really is taking me aback on this is 36
This is
proof.
36 proof, so 18% ABV. Um, we say that's low to mid alcohol content. We wanted it playing in that range. Think Malibu, think whatnot, where it can be ready to, as we said, a sipper. It can be proofed down with some plus ones, or it can be punched up into cocktail spins for sure. So we really wanted to give it that ability to play right where it's at, high or low based on occasion.
What stands out, and I'm going to use a word, we're going
Ooh,
to use lifestyle.
lifestyle. Okay.
Because if you look at where Fermented Adventure is for what our, this is our 6th year in the podcast. And, Dawn, and for both of us, we've been experiencing different beers, wines, all that for the last 8 years. And
Mhm.
what we found from the lifestyle, we're looking for less alternatives, either low ABV or no ABV, so we can enjoy a lot longer. We can just
Yeah.
not feel like we're being overburdened with the alcohol. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yep.
I'll do, we'll do 124 on a bourbon. I'm not disappointed there either. But when we're hanging out with friends, and
Yep.
or we're looking for something just to sip maybe while watching a movie, or when we're out and about because we don't want to drive
Yes.
inebriated, we're looking for some things like this, either no AB or low ABV. And this is starting. And you look at the hockey stick version of the low no ABV category, and
Absolutely.
it's just jumping out of shoes. So is that something that I'm imagining when you originally formulated this was higher proof?
Yeah, it was. Exactly right. Yeah, that was the first step, was to balance the proof down a little bit and get it kind of nested in a comfortable spot. So I think you hit it on the head, that and it is something that there's a time and a place for everything. There's a time and a place for everything, and even sunshine can act differently by occasion. A lot of times when we speak, particularly to bars that and on premise, we say, well, when would you use this and what? And a lot of times we'll say brunch, the beach, or a shot? And okay, interesting. What would you plug into each one of those? Well, brunch, a lot of times we're looking at sunshine punch, splash of soda water, squeeze of an orange. We call that a partly sunny. And that's probably going to proof down around your 10, 12. And it's going to be beautiful. Think Orange Julius, think light, think sipper, not heavy at all, a little effervescent. And that is a really, really cool drink. Now, on the other hand, shot, the other end of things. We have people coming to us continuously. What does this pair well with? And we're like, well, we haven't found what it doesn't. Patron XO was a really big one. We're doing tropical baby G's where you combine these and they're absolutely delicious and festive. Now, that's a complete different spectrum than our let's take it easy and chill brunch personality, if you will. But getting back to your question, I like the subject hop, but getting back to your question, yes, the first step, proof down. And then you can always punch up.
And that's what I'm really appreciating. And it, like you're going through all these recipes, and I'm thinking to myself, when you were going with that brunch item, I'm thinking I would love prosecco on this. I would love champagne on this
Yes.
as a brunch item, because I wasn't expecting the club soda. But if you want to bring down again that ABV
Yeah.
and enjoy brunch a little bit more and still be able to really enjoy that, you've got that with this. I'm also thinking, can I make, let's say, a mojito out of this, where I'm adding more rum, I'm adding lime, I'm adding citrus, I'm adding peppermint, mint to this. All these versions, and then you go into doing these shots. The first thing that I conjured up in this vision is because we keep going back to the beach, right? And there are so many beach bars
Yes.
where the consumer, your patron at a beach bar, is looking for something fun, unique, um, doesn't want to spend a lot of money on it, but also you don't have bartenders that are going to sit there when the bar is hopping that are going to take 4 or 5 minutes to make a really well crafted cocktail. But if
That's right.
if my bartenders have these on the speed rack, and we
Yes.
come up with some sort of fancy, this is what we make cocktail, and I'm pouring these, and people are seeing these orange bottles, and what the heck's
That's
that?
right.
And you
That's
come
right.
up with a fun cocktail that they only have to add a couple more ingredients to, you've hit a niche right there.
That's it. That's it. And I think ease of use always has to be in the forefront of our identity and what we mean to our retail and on-prem partners. It has to be. We can always be a small ingredient in something more sophisticated because a lot of times they're like, oh, that's a flavor profile we don't have. This is different. That's great. But where we really bring the value is in the personality, the flavor profile, and the ease of use. So you just said it. I hit the bookends, the brunch and the shot, but obviously the beach is the bread and butter for this brand. It's really where you're getting. We do a sunburn. It's our take on a painkiller. So you're starting to mix some of your fruit juices, your coconut rum, sunshine punch. It's boom, 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 3 ingredients. If you want to garnish, rock and roll. If you want to get a slushy machine going, um, they're wonderful. They can drive cash. I know they're a pain in the butt to clean for employees, but this can be a great solution as your base there. A little bit of tequila blanco, sunshine punch, little lime, little orange, beautiful tequila funshine we call it. So, but it's a product that lends its creativity or its identity to a proprietor, a bartender, a mixologist, their creativity, and they can make it their own a ton of ways.
Yeah, you're talking about a lot of different things while you're saying that, and I'm hearing all your ideas. I'm thinking mezcal. I'm
Right.
thinking
Right.
you can also add cider to this. So you're bringing in those apple notes. You've got the opportunity. I'm wondering how this will pair with an IPA, which is so juicy and so hoppy, where maybe you're making the name of that cocktail, Michelangelo. I don't know whatever that is, where there's beer in that.
That's right.
But I'm thinking there's it's
Blue
versatile.
Moon. A blue moon. This is
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
blue
Right.
sunshine.
Yeah.
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 So what you've really created is that product that can stand on its own, that you can play a little bit by adding some ice, and then the sky's the limit. The options are the limit.
Yeah. The most unique one for us was early on. We had a mixologist working with us, and he was gotten to be really regional popular guy, does great stuff. And he's looking at us on a meeting. He's like, guys, you guys don't realize that a barista is always trying to tease out hints of orange, a little bit of orange in a coffee roast. And we're looking, huh? And he said, guys, what I'm telling you is you're going to play really well with all things coffee. So when you think about cold brew coffee and sunshine punch, a rise in sunshine, he's like, it's incredible. It's really done well. And then I mentioned to you before some of the Cafe Patron or some of the coffee tequilas. He's like, it's really a natural fit, even though it doesn't necessarily sound like it on paper. And we started playing around and tasting like, absolutely. Now, here's what's interesting and challenging. So that's a big adventure we just went on. And me and you could sit here and talk down rabbit holes of what about this and what about this? And oh, look how it behaved here. Now, still a lot of my audience is like, sip it over ice, leave it
Right.
alone, man. Shut your mouth. And you're like,
Right.
okay, I get it. So you do
Keep all that
find
other stuff out. I don't want
yeah,
this messing up my drink.
yeah, shut up. And you're like, you got to be careful because you want to make sure that it's unique and
Right.
versatile. You want to make sure the ease of use, and you also don't want to complicate the story where people are like, I don't know what to do with this thing.
Right.
And it's not that hard. It's, make it your own, but don't overthink it.
All right, I'm just going to go down one more addition rabbit hole because you mentioned coffee and
Yes.
St. Patrick's Day is coming up.
Yes.
So if you want to create a really cool St. Patrick's Day drink, grab Jameson cold brew
Yes.
and add it to that. Because if you're talking about the citrus and the coffee notes, and then you get the Irish whiskey, I don't know what
Yes.
I'm going to call this an Anita Bryant leprechaun, whatever. I don't know.
That's it. You got it. I'll tell you the other one that was interesting is Shanky Swip. And Shanky's is interesting product in itself because it is unique. It is a unique personality, and those two together, we called it an eclipse. But that was pretty cool take
All
as
right, Shanky's has been on our podcast. We love Shanky's, and I'm gonna try that. We have certainly our bottle down there, and I'm gonna try to mix it. That was one of the things that I thought of, Matt, right away when you talk about where this spirit, where this sunshine punch fits into, is again as the consumer. For me, we've come out of COVID and we've already done that. I've played bartender in my house. I've gotten all the equipment. I've gotten all these mixers, and you know what? I love playing bartender, but there are times when I just want to grab a bottle and I just want to just enjoy a cocktail without having to cut my limes and hand shave my ice and all the things that I was doing. It reminded me of the Shanky's Whip. It also reminds me of something Hercules Mulligan, which to me, when you say you can sip this neat or you can start to play with it, but it's ready to go and you don't have to spend too much time thinking about it.
that's it.
I love that. You don't
That's it.
have to talk, you don't have to think about this.
That,
Sunshine Punch, grab the bottle, pour a little bit of it, let's go.
that's it. That's it. And yeah, and I think those brands have done a remarkable job of telling their story as well. And that's really it. You just have to send the consumer down a path and give them a little bit of a clue of your identity and what it's all about. They'll figure the rest out. They will figure the rest out, but you just kind of set the stage for them.
Yeah, it's a story, right? We've said this before. If I can connect with a story, you create those brand followers
Yes.
because it really resonates with them. And
Yes.
look, you right off the bat, we talked about this being like an orange creamsicle. So if I'm, the Mr. Softy truck comes down, or you get those bars in the supermarket, and that was your summertime thing. There's so much nostalgia to that
Yep.
too. But I'll tell you what, this while it's got the cream, it's got the orange. This is not your. This is mom and dad's
Yeah,
creamsicle. That's
yeah,
what this is.
right, right, yeah. And it's almost like generationally, you're going for nostalgic for the older generation and uniquely fresh, something that tastes like it's been there all along, but not necessarily the nostalgic play for some of the younger folks. And I hope you're getting that as well, where there's no doubt we're after the creamsicle uniqueness. But for every time we hear that, we hear one or two other things that creates that identity in the middle somewhere. We hear other things. We hear Orange Julius. We hear this or that. And they're like, oh, cool. All right. So we are, we're reminiscent without being pigeonholed.
You did talk about this being shelf stable. Now
Yes.
that I've opened my bottle, where should it go? And because it's just me and you on the podcast,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to be able to finish this all by myself, and Dawn would be mad if I did. So, do I refrigerate this? Can this sit up on the shelf? How long? What's your intake on that?
Yeah, I mean, the product's been tested and accelerated through 2 years, and so completely stable. If anything, you refrigerate just as a nice cold product being poured, but also it could preserve a little of the brightness of the orange. So if there's anything that we see on an open bottle on room temp, is that the orange can dissipate a little bit over time, but our intention is that these are being turned through much quicker than months on a shelf. So to answer your question, it really depends if you want a cold auto bottle experience or room temp, and let that orange pop across the room.
The beauty of what you're talking about too is because we purchased the creamy bourbons and all those things, and you almost have to make a commitment that I'm going to drink this because once I open it, I got a time limit on there,
Yep,
and that's again, I have some time with this, and I have the ability that I'm not going to open it, and if I don't finish it, I'm going to feel bad. So
sure.
that's a good thing too. Now we teased this all out, Matt. How do people find it? Where is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are growing. We're in roughly just over 30 states now, but we are um, arriving at many major retailers. I don't know if I can mention on here or
Why
not.
not? They're your
Okay, all
retailers. You're
right.
selling it.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, Specs, our partners and friends at Specs and Benny's, we are at Total Wine and More. We are at a small amount of Albertsons. We are in ABC in Florida. We're at Big Daddy's in Florida, and we are going in right now to all of the liquor carrying, spirits carrying Publix in Florida. So, and that's not to even mention so many more of our smaller regional players as well. We have on our website, if you check out our website, that is sunshinepunch.me. So Sunshine Punch Me. But you can check us out on there and find store listings and locations. You can also purchase directly through the website if you want to have a direct consumer experience there. Yeah, so we're growing and we're finding ourselves very available.
Now we're here in Pennsylvania. That's where we're coming from. Is Pennsylvania one of those that's accepted the sunshine yet?
On deck, on deck.
On
We're
deck.
special order Pennsylvania, and we've had success, but it's a market that we need to make sure that we're pointing our resources to, and then to make sure to grow it properly.
Okay, and I'm sure definitely on the Jersey Shore side of things, the
Jersey
Delaware shores,
Shore, yep,
Delaware beaches too.
Delaware, Jersey, Maryland, so all that mid-Atlantic, um, uh, obviously the Carolinas and below as well.
Good. We want to stay well stocked so we can share the sunshine on our end. Matt, is there anything we haven't talked about on the podcast? Anything you want people to know more about you or more about Sunshine Punch?
Oh, I think we love the team. We love some of the lifestyle and relationships this grew out of. It's something that's been in our circles for the last 10 years, but it feels like it's been a part of some of our friendships and journeys since the beginning. And that's really what we wanted to try to capture at the intersection of the brand and the liquid and the route to market as well. So that really is what we're all about, trying to stay genuine to our roots, have a personality that matches. That's it. We hope to see many extensions, other fun flavors, other fun sizes, on the backs of the orange cream, but we're really enjoying the ride to start with.
You know, my mind is wanting to say that for what you guys have done, I just love the introduction to this. I appreciate all that you're doing. And just from this little encounter and trying this, you know, this is one of our, hey, we've got something for 2025 that, you know, when you're coming to the house or when we're going down to the beach, we can share and introduce to people. I'm just wondering, Matt, is there anything from the team that is kind of in the works you've been thinking about doing to give you know, Sunshine Punch maybe a brother or a sister?
Yeah, there's a few that are like waiting in the wings. There's a couple of flavors that are waiting in the wings that we really think are have the caliber and the fit. We just what we wanted to do is not spread things too thin, cannibalization of sales, but also just messaging, etc. But yeah, I think what you'll see from us next would be small size, and then what you'll see next down the road will be flavor extension. Take it somewhere fun.
I
So,
love it. I love it. Matt, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for being a friend of Fermented Adventure.
absolutely.
Have you guys come up with a way to toast with this yet, or still work in progress?
Yeah, you know what? That's great. We work in progress, but sometimes here's to all the beaches to come. That's maybe a good way to do it.
Here's all the beaches to come,
That's
and getting sand in our toes.
that's right. Rich, love what you guys are doing. Thanks so much for having me as a guest.
Thank you, sir. And I'm just going to say cheers. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.